and welcome to Shifty Crab News Break, where we bring you just a pinch of the week's gaming news and discuss all the games we can't wait to get our claws on. I am your host, Terry Jeffs, and I am joined today by he now owns a PlayStation 5, Adam Very. How are you, Adam?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy. I've got my baby. It's safe at home. So yeah, all's good.
Have you been cuddling up into bed with it? Is your wife getting a bit jealous?
I'm sneaking out the bedroom and going downstairs and just rubbing it. That's what I do.
Proud owner of a
I am.
PlayStation 5. But today we're going to be talking some news, Adam. We are going to be speaking about new PlayStation VR games announced, more details, and the announcement of the Elite Dangerous Odyssey expansion alpha coming this month. And we've got a more deeper look at the Aliens Fireteam game. But first, before that, I just remembered. Oh, just got to finish up this. Just finishing up some humble pie right there, Adam, because
Yeah,
it seems
we really
that
should.
a Nintendo Switch is being made, an OLED and 4K output reportedly being revealed this year. This report is on GameSpot by Timur Hussein. An upgraded Nintendo Switch model featuring an OLED display from Samsung, as well as support for 4K resolution when docked, is reportedly set for a reveal by Nintendo later this year. The model, according to Bloomberg, will be unveiled this year, and Samsung will begin mass production of the new 7-inch screen as early as June. In handheld mode, it will be sticking to a more modest resolution. The OLED display panel will output at 720p resolution, according to Bloomberg, which cites people familiar with plans. Nintendo is said to be working to maintain interest around the Switch, as well as continue to sell software competitively against Xbox and PlayStation. Reports of a more powerful version of the Switch have been floating around for some time now. In January, a data miner noted that a firmware update issued by Nintendo references an upgraded Switch console codenamed Ula. This upgraded model allegedly uses Marico Tegra X1 Plus SoC chip that was implemented with the Switch Lite and updated to 2019 regular model Switches. Additionally, the firmware mentioned support for the firmware mentioned support for a Realtek chip, which has been advertised as a 4K UHD multimedia SoC. So I obviously, which is now going to become famously predicted in our predictions for this year, that a new Switch would not be announced this year. I didn't think we was going to get anything of the sort because of the way that the Switch has been selling, continues to sell. So yeah, this one kind of caught me off guard. I knew it was coming eventually, but I didn't think that we'd be getting this kind of talk so soon with talks of a holiday release. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I have to join you in some of that humble pie because I think I was quite quick to shoot this one down as well. Sometimes you just have to be wrong. Um, yeah, it was. I knew there was rumors of it, but it just didn't make too much sense from a business point of view because obviously Nintendo sell a ton of Switches, but any new consoles exciting. The one thing that, like, obviously the OLED screen will be great. Samsung really know how to make a good screen.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4K output will be great. The only worry that I have with this is there's no real talk of the power being improved. So it's all well and good the games looking great when they're running at a lower, obviously, frame rate, but how are they going to deal with a bigger game? Like if you look at obviously the one that comes to mind, Breath of the Wild, when you were playing that game, it looked nice, but then when there was a lot going on, the game suffered. Now, Breath of the Wild 2, you imagine is going to be the same size, if not bigger. and you've got The Witcher and stuff like that, which notoriously struggles on it. Like, is it going to be the same sort of issue? They have, obviously, this is still very early. They've not mentioned the power, so the screen's great and everything, and it is. Oh, Samsung OLED will be a really nice screen, but I'm waiting to hear about the power before I really dive in on this one too much, because it would be very much like Nintendo if they don't increase the power whatsoever on this console and just put a better screen on it. But yeah, new Switch. I don't think it's needed. If they're not improving the power, I don't think it's needed. But it's going to sell anyway, isn't it? Really, it's Nintendo.
Yeah. So I think that they will improve the power. I think they kind of have to, really. I mean, what would be the point of upgrading to a 4K resolution screen when you don't really have any games that could really push to that 4K frame rate and run well? I don't think there's no games that are on the Switch currently that are demanding a 4K display.
No, and I don't think there'll be too many going forward that will demand a 4K display by the nature of what Nintendo put out. It handles quite well at 1080, and it doesn't. I don't think games like Mario need 4K necessarily.
I mean, you could take an example like, say, Ori, and the Will o' the Wisps. Like, you look at that on the Xbox Series X, which looks absolutely stunningly gorgeous. Right. Something like that. Not to say that whatever this Switch Pro may be could run it to that extent, but I think we're definitely going to see some kind of improvement. Excuse me. I don't think though that we are hearing anything right here, because the only details we're getting right now, is just to do with the screen by Samsung. So I'm sure this is just now the first trickle of smoke to the fire, that we're going to slowly hear more about this, what parts are going into it, things like this. Because this isn't going to be a Switch 2 or whatever the next thing's going to be. This is purely going to be the typical thing that Nintendo does, where there's a slight improvement to it. I mean, you could even look at it similar to like the new 3DS. When they built the new 3DS out, it wasn't like revolutionary. It was just the 3DS, but it had a more powerful processor, more powerful graphics chip, so it could basically run some games better, do some more snazzier stuff. And I guess that is what this will be. There'll be new games that come out on it that can run at 4K, slightly better textures, that kind of stuff. Nothing crazy, and nothing that's going to be competing with the PlayStation 5 or the Series X, but an improvement nevertheless, and one that I did not expect like this soon.
No. Here's a quick question for you, because I know you don't have a Switch yourself.
No.
And I know you were kind of toying with the idea of maybe getting one.
Oh, 100% want one, yeah.
Do you now wait for the new one, or will you go in on the current one?
Yeah, so I was thinking this today. Actually. And yeah, I would for myself, I would definitely hold out and get whatever this one will be, because it would just, it'd be the latest model, it'd be the 4K and all that kind of stuff. And I'd imagine I would play a mixture of it being docked and handheld. I love a handheld console anyway, but I probably would dock it as well. I'd like to, put it on a 4K screen if it was 4K. But yeah, for the kids, because I know that I'll also get one for the kids, I'll probably get them the current model, or not the Lite, because they're not going to dock it. They don't need to do that, and they just want something that they can play handheld. So I probably get that for those. But but no, I mean, 100% want one. If I hadn't have got a PlayStation 5, I would have pulled the trigger like already. But I can't warrant getting one now after just getting that. But maybe this Christmas, I know, who knows if this is going to be out by then. We'll have to wait and see. But this has definitely got me interested.
It's always difficult with Nintendo, isn't it? Because it says this isn't going to get announced till later on in the year. Now, how long do Nintendo give themselves from announcement to release? Because they're notorious. Like, sometimes they do things really quickly and they say, pre-order now, it's out in 3 months. Or it could be, this will come out in a year's time or 6 months' time. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if we do get it holiday this year, to try and capitalize on Christmas, but which Nintendo normally do anyway, capitalize at Christmas, or if it gets pushed into 2022. That's probably the more interesting. hate from this if it's going to be later in the year.
I think the fact that we're hearing about this now, in an
Mm.
ideal world, if everything was functioning normally, yeah, I think we would get this this holiday, and I think that's what they're aiming for. Whether we get that due to everything, you know, the production lines, there's a massive delay on everything, on parts, that may not happen. I do think that they were aiming for that, and if that is the case, then I think that we will get an announcement probably the end of the summer, or you know, like autumn time, with a late autumn, early winter release. Because yeah, I just think they'll do a Nintendo Direct. They'll announce that this thing's coming out, and it will release in like 3 months, 2 months, wherever it will be.
Yeah, and you can imagine that the PlayStation Direct will show the new console, and that's where they will show the trailer for Breath of the Wild 2. Because this surely, if this is coinciding, this is going to be a new Switch title. That must be their launch title, I presume.
Yeah.
That's why they're holding off on it potentially.
And it would be stupid as well for them to give an announcement so far ahead, because the whole like we said before, the Switch is selling so well. Why would you want to put a stop to that? Like, obviously they just want to. People are still buying Switches. They're in demand. Let them keep selling. Then yeah, leave it to the smallest gap as you can to announce that there's this new one coming out. Otherwise, if you say, oh yeah, in 6 months' time, there's this new version coming out, then people are gonna, like myself, like I'm gonna wait for that, or if not, I'd go out and get the previous version. But yeah, no, it looks like it's happening. It looks like this could be one of my predictions crossed off the list. Adam, it's not looking good for myself, but hey, until it's announced,
you took the bullet on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Until it's announced, it's still on there. All right, it's still
true.
Still not confirmed.
Just got to survive the year.
Next in our news stories, so we're going to take a look at the new Sony PlayStation VR game. So there was a PlayStation VR spotlight yesterday, I believe it was, over at Eurogamer. Matt Wales has done a kind of roundup of the highlights of the show. So this is a little article posted on here by him. Sony has been shining a light on PlayStation VR today, or rather on some of the upcoming games owners will be able to play. Owners will be able to enjoy with their helmets on and hands are hoisted. And those who missed it can catch up on the various announcements below. So the highlight of the show was Doom 3 VR Edition. The big name reveal comes in the form of Doom 3 VR Edition, which, as its name implies, is a VR enhanced version of ID Software's 2004 first-person shooter Doom 3. It'll include new textures and sound effects alongside the game's Resurrection of Evil and the Lost Mission expansions when it launches on 29th of March. Yeah, just first of all, Doom 3. Did you ever play that back in the day, Adam? Like, does this?
I dabbled with it a little bit. I didn't go too deep on it, to be honest. I think it'll be a lot of fun in VR.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna feel a bit like a badass playing that in VR. But yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how that will run like in real time when you're wearing that headset, because I remember
motion sickness galore, I imagine.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to fix that, because I haven't taken a kind of proper look at this reveal, but I played Doom 3 when it came out. God, I remember when I just had my first gaming PC built, and it was just good enough to run Doom 3, and that was, I feel like, one of the bars of what you had to match with the lighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel like the premise of Doom is to move quickly. You don't really stand still. Like, you're just constantly moving, shooting, watching your corners, moving through. And in VR, that's not so easy.
Yeah, I mean, only thing I would say is that Doom 3, I think, is the weird black sheep of the family, where it was they slowed it down quite a bit, and they were going for that survival horror aspect of it. Whereas the first two and the new ones are very much like just acceleration, action paced FPS. Doom 3, I think, tried to go for the more kind of slow. I think they were playing on that new tech of the shadows and things jumping out on you and stuff like that. So, but even so, even just with the gunplay, I'm sure they'll put a spin on it that will stop that kind of motion sickness, because you can't even just play like a normal slow shooter in in VR without changing some things on like if you look at what they did with Half-Life Alyx, they probably took some tips from that. Like Half-Life Alyx, there's several ways you can play that. You can either just kind of point and target of where you want to kind of step to, like a teleportation thing, or there's a few other options as well, which is really cool. Like and I think that's just the way that kind of VR has to go with now, because I myself, I haven't played any FPSs in VR, but I know there's some stuff that will give me some serious motion sickness, because I can't deal with spinning or things like that. It really,
I'm not a huge fan of spinning. No.
yeah, no.
You won't catch me on the waltzes.
Oh, the waltzes mess me up big time.
They
I
are
will
my
never
worst.
go on
I
a
can't
waltzer
do it.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get on any roller coaster in the world. I don't know how many, I don't care how high it goes, how many loops it goes. I will love it.
Yeah.
Chuck me on something that just spins around and I'll
can't
just
do
get
it.
up, spewing up everywhere. Yeah, not
Can't
good.
do it. Peacocks, waltzes, all of it. My worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Hate it. But yeah, I love roller coasters. Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Next game that was on the showcase was Fracked, from a developer N Dreams, which sets players loose in a mountain fracking facility overrun by armed interdimensional creatures intent on destroying the world. It promises fast-paced 1-1 run and cover gameplay mixed with skiing, climbing, base jumping, and zip lining, and it will include PS5 enhancements when it launches this summer. Next, we've got Zenith. Zenith, meanwhile, is an expansive JRPG-inspired MMO that sees players exploring a massive world of lush canopies, turquoise blue waters, and futuristic cityscapes as they take on men and gods in a bid to prevent catastrophe. There are dungeons to explore, bosses to defeat, and developer Ramen VR promises stamina-based climbing, gliding, plus hyper-immersive combat built around throwing, blocking, and dodging when Zenith arrives as some currently unspecified future point. After the Fall, from Vertigo Games, the developer behind Arizona Sunshine, it's a co-op action FPS set in the frozen post-apocalyptic remains of an alternative 1980s LA. I like the sound of this. Players will need to take on terrifying, ferocious undead that roam the world in massive hordes, using both conventional weapons and more exotic 80s-inspired efforts like a cassette player turned missile launcher when it arrives this summer.
Alley?
Oh, that's just, God, I just plucked that out of one of my dreams.
Arizona Sunshine was probably the breakout hit when the first big batch of VR games arrived, the PlayStation VRs. It was really popular then.
I don't know too much about that one.
Yeah, Arizona Sunshine. It was a zombie apocalypse style game. I think it's very similar to this, but it was set in Arizona. So it was much more rocky areas, sandy, open areas, like mills and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with a 1980s LA. That's kind of my genre of time that I enjoy going to. So and it looks like it'll be a lot of fun as well. So yeah, that was one of the ones that piqued my interest. But the next one you're going to talk about is the one that has me doing backflips.
I Expect You to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar. There's an altogether more cerebral sorts of action in Shell Games' sequel, I Expect You to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar, which once again sees players casting the role of enterprising secret agents, using their brains to figure out how escape each perilous scenario with their lives. Yeah. Take advantage of your telekinetic abilities in all new environments and surroundings, explains the developer. Expose the diabolical plot and learn even more about Zoraxis. I Expect You to Die 2 comes to PSVR later this year.
Yeah, this is one for me. So I was waiting until I got the PS5 till I got PlayStation VR. And now the geniuses at PlayStation have announced a new PlayStation VR. So now I'm toyed whether I wait for that PlayStation VR, for PSVR 2, or just get the current PSVR and then upgrade later down the line. The only game that was two games. I think the other one's Bound for Glory, or which is done by London Studios.
I
think it was Bound for Glory, something like that. But I Expect You to Die because I love escape rooms. And I love James Bond, so that whole point of being a spy trapped in a maniacal trap, and having to work your way out. And
Yeah.
it's one of them that you stayed sat down for the whole thing.
Mhm.
So you can turn and stuff like that. So you can sit on an office chair and you can do it, and you don't have to walk around. And I really liked that. And I saw some videos of people playing it, and it was right up my alley. So that they're doing a second one just cements that I have to get VR, because
It does.
just for this alone, really.
It does look really good. Have you ever played the Room games?
Yeah.
Yeah,
played
I
The Room,
absolutely
yeah.
love those. I
Same.
played them on my phone, and just same kind of thing. It's that kind of escape room mentality, isn't it? Except it's not.
Yeah.
You're not escaping. You're trying to work your way into like a box. But I love stuff like that, and I know there is a VR version, isn't there? And I want to get my
I
hands on that.
believe so.
Yeah.
I had it on my phone, but then actually I got it on the Switch,
Mm.
and it works really well with the Switch with the Joy Cons and on
Mm.
the screen and stuff like that, which is a bit fiddly at first, but you get used
Yeah.
to it. And then I went through The Witness and down that minefield of
Yeah,
a game. And there's a new game that's on PlayStation Plus this month, called
Oh, I know the one you're talking about, but yeah, I can't think of the name of it.
Marquette or something like that.
Yeah, that's it, Marquette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another puzzle game where you deal with different size objects in different realms, and you can move
Yeah.
them as puzzles. And I'm waiting to start that one. Me and my wife will play that one together when I can get her off Stardew Valley. But this seems right up my alley as a game.
Yeah.
So to have the first one and then know that this is coming out sometime this year currently,
Mhm.
I expect a few of these to slip into next year. But yeah, very excited for this one. This one excites me more than Doom, anyway.
Finally, there's Song in the Smoke, a striking survival game by developer 17-Bit. As you'd expect, there's hunting and scavenging to be done, but once your hunger is sufficiently sated, you're free to explore the world, crafting weapons and tools to make a little more progress before bedding down for the night. All that's given a VR twist that you'll be able to experience yourself when Song in the Smoke launches sometime in 2021. I like the sound of this.
Yeah, it looked really cool, like on the trailer, and I want to see more about this. I like the idea of doing a VR like survival game,
Castaway
scavenging
kind of thing.
game. Yeah, Castaway. I feel like that's quite good for VR, because if you can go at your own pace, and you can be really involved in it. So
yeah, I mean,
looking forward to that one too.
But yeah, this is all good because I was having this conversation with Vince in the week, and I'm just so glad that because they went radio silent on VR, as we know PlayStation does. They did it with Vita, and then we never heard anything about Vita again. They just left it to die. There were some worries. Okay, what's happening with VR? You launched a new console, but now we know that there's a PSVR 2 coming. It's coming next year, and now we've got obviously the spotlight on these new games coming out. So it's good. Like the platform's being supported. We're seeing new experiences coming out of it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm glad that they're sticking with it. I'll be interested to see what they do with VR 2, like, and how they improve on VR. And yeah, the more games they release, the more people are going to buy the product, because it's going to be worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
awesome. On to the next story. Elite Dangerous Odyssey expansion opens playable PC alpha later this month. This news story is by Matt Wells again over at Eurogamer. Elite Dangerous Odyssey, the new on-foot focus expansion for developer Frontier's long-running space sim, will be opening its doors to the paying public on 29th of March, when its playable alpha gets underway for commanders on PC. Players wishing to take part in the alpha will need to have pre-ordered Elite Dangerous Odyssey's Deluxe Alpha Edition, priced at $39.99, which is £10 more than the standard edition, if you're wondering how much you'll be paying for the privilege and OST. To accompany the news, Frontier has released a new trailer showing off gameplay from the alpha build of Odyssey. Here in the video, 3 players team up to complete an on-foot raid of a military outpost in order to disable its power and hinder the opposing faction. Quote, all 3 commanders in this incursion team are specially equipped for their assigned role, explains Frontier. Their tactical gear grants them an edge in their assigned tasks, whether it is to infiltrate the base base avoiding detection, lay down covering fire if the alarm is raised, hacking, or quickly extract their teammates from a tight spot if enemy forces overwhelm them. Come the arrival of Odyssey, players will, for the first time, be able to leave the confines of their space vessels and stroll about Elite Dangerous's vast galaxy on foot, exploring everything from shiny space stations to dusty desert outposts in first person, completing combat missions and more. Frontier says the expansion will increase the number of landable planets in Elite Dangerous by around 20%, equaling billions of traversable worlds. Elite Dangerous Odyssey will, following a coronavirus-related delay, get its full PC release in late spring this year. PS4 and Xbox One versions are now expected in autumn. Adam, do you have any experience with Elite Dangerous or know much about the game at all?
No, I'll admit that I don't. But reading this, my No Man's Sky alarm is going off behind me. It's just like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." Like as soon as they say billions of traversable worlds
Yeah.
and leaving your space pod, I'm just like, oh, please don't be like No Man's Sky. Please deliver on it because it sounds interesting to people that want to play this. The incursion teams and stuff like that had a really cool twist to space exploration, and I don't really know too much about it, to be honest. But if they can deliver what they're saying, then I'm sure it'll be a really good game.
Yeah. So Elite Dangerous. I mean, the original Elite came out on like the ZX Spectrum, like back in the 80s. It was on like on a tiny cassette tape, and it was like a British made game, so ahead of its time in the fact that it had this entire galaxy on a tiny bit of memory, and they used some crazy techniques back then of coding and algorithms to be able to do this. I mean, it was very like basic graphics, like wireframe kind of thing, but the fact that you could play that back in the day was just insane. Like, you imagine the games we had back then, that imagine you could just kind of explore and do what you want, be what you want, a trader or a bounty hunter, or just kind of explore planets. So yeah, Elite Dangerous came out back in 2000, I think it was about 2014, 2015. And I remember when it was first announced on Kickstarter, and David Braben, who's the head of Frontier Developments, he was the one that made the original Elite. He made the sequels, and then he got this kind of kick-started, and they're an amazing outfit. They're based in Cambridge, and they're just like a really cool like team of developers. And I was just immediately, when it was announced, I was just like watching it all the way, watching all the development videos. I pre-ordered it. I got the original game on the PC. I did play it for a bit, but my PC, this game, when you see this game, like videos of it in its full glory in 4K graphics, it just looks absolutely stunning. And my PC couldn't do that, and I didn't enjoy playing it knowing that all the levels were down and stuff like that. I was just like, oh, like I want to play this one day. And I always watch videos of it, and I even bought it on the PS4, and I just haven't played it on there. But I get a massive FOMO of like this game because I just keep seeing all these things happening. But at the same time, I know that they're just constantly supporting it, and it's always going to be there for when I go there, and it's going to just have way much more content. Because back when I was playing it, it was just, you couldn't land on planets, you couldn't do anything like that. And now they've obviously introduced that, and now they're introducing this mode of it. It's just such an interesting game. But you said you worry about it being No Man's Sky. So this came out before No Man's Sky, and the difference is with this, No Man's Sky is very much a I guess like a fantasy. It's kind of based on sci-fi fantasy, and even the artwork and the way that it's kind of, whereas this is very simulator like. So this is like a actual recreation of the entire Milky Way galaxy. So everything is exactly where it should. It is, the amount of science that goes into this is crazy. So you can actually bring up the galaxy map, and it's all the constellations, all the stars that are exactly as they are, as we see them. And then obviously beyond that, it's I guess procedurally generated, because we don't know what's beyond that. So but there are billions and billions of like stars and planets you can go to. They look stunning, like they're all grounded in real elements. And again, it's all procedurally generated, but it's all based off what elements are in what system, and it's crazy. But they introduced that you could land on planets, but now they've gone one more, like now they've brought in this new element where it's like they've created an FPS game Like, because this is just a space sim. You're flying, you're dogfighting in the skies in your ship and stuff like that. Also amazing in VR. I've tried it in VR and it's stunning. But yeah, this is really interesting because I really wonder how this is going to go, and the fact that they've introduced this, because Eve done something similar before with a failed experiment. I can't think of the name of the game; it's not coming to my head. But they released it on the PlayStation 3 to tie in with Eve Online, and the game was like a standalone.
I remember this.
Yeah, the game was a standalone FPS, which the effects in that and the battles in that affected the Eve, and vice versa. I think so when I first heard they announce this, alarm bells did start ringing. I think, oh, that didn't go well for Eve. Like, I don't think it's going to go well for you guys. But they seem to. This is very early. Obviously, it's alpha and it's looking a bit rough, like graphically. But I like the concept of it, of like, because it isn't a separate game. It is the connected thing. Like, you've got one guy in the ship and he's coming down, landing on the planet. He's come to pick up the crew, which are like trying to get some information and escape and get out. It looks really interesting, and I love what they're doing and how they're expanding on this game and where it can be going. When this was announced, Adam, this was announced literally around the same at the same Kickstarter time as Star Citizen.
Oh, okay, right? Okay.
And David Braben and I can't remember the guy's name, but the one who's creating Star Citizen, they're close friends because they both released games around the same time, like in the 80s and stuff. But I mean, you look at the difference in them. Obviously, Star Citizen is like literally shooting for the stars in terms of graphical, prior to what we can do. But are we ever going to see that released ever? Like, that's had like hundreds and hundreds of millions poured into that, and it's still in like some kind of alpha. At the same time this was announced, it's been out for about 6 years, and they just keep adding more and more content to it. So they're really delivering on it. But yeah, I just wanted to put this out there.
I don't know how I've not. I must have seen this at some point. I'm going to have a look into it after.
Elite Dangerous. Oh, God, yeah.
I must have. Like, the name, I think it was the Odyssey that was throwing me off. Elite Dangerous rings a bell to me. Yeah. So it's got to be in there somewhere. That sounds more like my sort of game. Obviously, a more realistic space simulator is something that I'd really like to dip my toe into. That's what I didn't like about No Man's Sky. The only issue, one of the main issues with No Man's Sky is I thought, what is the point? That was one of my things of it, because there was no satisfaction from that game for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping that this maybe has more satisfaction to it. Like, but it's something that I'm definitely going to have a look at.
Yeah, definitely take a look. I'd say have a look on YouTube, because this is the kind of game that people buy the triple monitor setup, the flight stick, the whole flight simulator crew. Like, this is that kind of thing. And some people have got some crazy setups that play this, but yeah, worth checking out. And while we are on the subject of sci-fi, Aliens Fireteam has had an exclusive 25-minute gameplay video, which is on IGN. You can see this literally just went online just shortly before we started recording. I started watching some of it. So it's Ryan McCaffrey taking a deep dive look at it. He's basically playing the game with two of the other developers, and they're kind of walking him through it. And myself and Vince, we spoke about this on the last news break when they announced the game, but we only got like a quick kind of trailer of it. And I was saying I'm intrigued to see more of this, and now I'm seeing more of it, and I'm really liking the look of this. But yeah, I wanted to see your thoughts of what you thought of the announcement, and if you've got any attachment to the Alien franchise.
Wrong. I like Aliens. And I thought. Was it Isolation? Yeah. I thought that was a really clever game. The way they dealt with that, I thought that was really good. I think when I first saw this announced, when you guys were doing the news, I was a bit like, okay, because they haven't had the best track record with Aliens games, really. Like, they've swung for the fences a few times and struck out. But watching this, I haven't seen all of it. It looks pretty good. I'm interested that it is a 3-player co-op. Yeah. Not 4, not 2.
That's what I thought. That was the first thing that popped into my head. But then Vince said, and And it was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's the same as in Destiny. Like in Destiny, you have a
Oh, is it?
3-person fire team, and yeah, you do in these other kind of games. So, so by that it makes sense. But yeah, when I was initially seeing it, my thoughts immediately go into Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood. You know that these are
Yeah,
yeah. But I
yeah,
mean,
it looked really good.
you can see in this video. I mean, that's the thing, and yeah, same thing. I was quite apprehensive when I saw it because I was like, how like because first thoughts that going into my head is Alien Colonial Marines, which was like not good, and secondly, I didn't know the developer, so I'm thinking, okay, don't really know of what quality this is going to be, but I can tell you, looking at the gameplay video, I mean, it looks fantastic, and that's the funny thing because since it got announced, I've seen everyone kind of joking about it and kind of shitting on this, like as if to, I guess, in relation to Colonial Marines. But the biggest problem with Colonial Marines was technically it was terrible. I mean, it was buggy. It didn't look good. Like the comparisons between the reveal trailer and the eventual gameplay, it was like a different game. This technically looks amazing. Great lighting. The sound sounds great. The gameplay looks really good. Looks good the way that you work as a 3. Obviously, you got like a heavy unit and more of like a support unit. So the class-based roles. They seem to have got this down. They got the feeling of Aliens down. You know, when you got the kind of in a corridor, you got the motion tracker, hordes of them going after you. I'm really interested in this game now. My interest in this game went from, you know, when it was announced the other day, like a 5 up to like an 8.
Oh yeah, I think we as consumers have learned to be a little bit apprehensive when it comes to Aliens games.
Yeah,
so you need to see what they look like first before you get excited. So yeah, seeing it, I think it's relieved like a lot of the worries I had. And yeah, bring it on. Let's see how it develops, and look forward to seeing more about it.
You know what I was just thinking as well? Shifty Crab Aliens Fire Team.
Oh, that could be it. But then who would play what roles? That's the question, you see. That's who'd do what roles. Like
perfect numbers, though, you know? Perfect numbers.
That could be a good Twitch game for us to play.
Absolutely, absolutely. But until that happens, that is the end of this Shifty Crab news break. You'll be able to join us next time on the podcast. I believe that'll be next with myself, Adam, and Vince. But yeah, this is the end of today's show. Join us next time. Don't forget, you can catch us on YouTube. You can catch our podcast over on the podcast services on iTunes, Spotify, any podcast app you use. We're on there. Get on there. Get us subscribed to the YouTube channel. Tell us what you thought of the news announcements today. Drop comments below. And yeah, I have been Terry. This has been Adam.
See you later, guys.
We'll see you next time. Stay shifty.